Hi guys, welcome back to In Case of Econ Struggles. If you're finding these videos helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. Today we've got another Stata struggle for you. We're talking about how to do some exploratory stats on a data set. So we have just received a data set and we are trying to take a look at it and get a basic idea of what's happening. Sometimes if you're doing an assignment, they'll ask you to do specific summary stats on that data, but we're going to be a bit more general and just kind of poke around. The way we are going to do that is we are once again going to be using a do file. We are using a very similar do file to the one we set up last time. Take a look at that full video about tips for do file if you would like. But we're going to go ahead and get into it. So I'm just going to run all the way through reading in the data. So we have the data in here, and we do. And we've talked about what each of these windows mean. So we've talked about how to look at the variables, and we've looked at their properties in that initial intro to Stata video. But now we really want to start poking around. So let's go ahead and just do a basic describe. After I run each command, we'll just take a second and talk about what's happening. So this is the describe command. It's just going to give you the high level view of the data. Here are all the variables. This is whether or not they're string or number. So this str means string, meaning it's a word. And these ints are integers, float is a number, and byte is 0 or 1. And these are the labels if they have them. So that's not super useful. So let's move on to summarize. Try to get rid of this bookmark. So we'll just summarize this real quick. Here are all the variables. You can see make has an observation of 0 because it is a string variable. So you can't do things like averages on a string. So it just says 0. That doesn't mean that it's missing for every observation. It just couldn't calculate anything because it's a string. So we've got these numerics. You can see number of observations. So this rep 78 means that we are missing the rep 78 variable for 5 observations because we know we have 74. And then everyone else has full data for every variable, 74 all the way down. You've got some means, some standard deviations, and some min and maxes. You can also do summarize, comma, detail. And that will give you more information about each variable. It'll give you stuff like percentiles, variance, skewness, kurtosis, all those things. Generally, though, all we really care about is the summary. Now, another thing we can do, we can tabulate. So we can do a tabulate of foreign, which just means I want a count of all the different values of foreign and how many times they appear in the data. So I can see here 52 of my cars are domestic and 22 are foreign for a total of 74, and gives me the percentages. And this is the cumulative percent. So this 29 plus 70.27 will give me 100% or all the observations. Another fun thing to do is this two-way scatter. These are the two variables I'm going to scatter. So this is just a brief scatter plot of weight and miles per gallon. Now I can also do something like a correlation. So I can correlate weight and MPG. And if I think, oh, like that's pretty interesting, then I'm going to go ahead and put it into my do file. So I'm going to say correlations, new section, and then I'm going to say corr weight MPG. I could do a correlation matrix of as many variables as I want, but we'll stick to the 2 for now. And then that's really the basic idea in terms of using commands. Now, if your data is pretty small, you can go in the command window, you can type BR, it'll open up the data for you in a different window, and you can kind of scroll through just to get an idea of what's happening. Now, if your data is large, this is not going to be very helpful because you will definitely miss some weird things happening just because there's so much data. But for a small data set like this, it's pretty easy to scroll through, and we can see that like this AMC Spirit doesn't have any data for rep 78, neither does this Buick. And we can kind of get a sense, again, of what's happening. But for the most part, we want to stick to the commands. Then after I'm done, I'm just going to add this log close. And as we said before, we want to make sure this runs straight through. So I'm just going to not highlight anything. And then I'm going to click this do and make sure it runs straight through. It did. Here's my scatter plot. I've got no red messages in the command window. It didn't stop, so we are all good. So hopefully this was helpful in terms of getting those initial data diagnostics into a Stata do file. If it was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time for another case of econ struggles.